Hello, everybody. This is Uncle Louie coming back at you with another episode of the podcast. Now, as you guys might have remembered, if you happen to so have watched or technically listened to the first episode or the last one, you'll know that in the first one I kind of went into more of an introduction into as to why I got into podcasting and all that, and kind of the life journey, the backstory behind it, just to sum it up. But this episode will be something kind of out of that. We're done with that introduction. I dedicated the first episode for that. Now we can get on to some more more variety of topics. Today, or should I say tonight, I decided to come to all of you and give you kind of some questions in a sense about the moon. Yes, you heard right. This podcaster, Uncle Louie, will be talking to you about the moon. Now, ordinarily, you would kind of be questioning as to why would he talk about the moon? Like, isn't that something we all kind of know, or at least have a faint memory of when we were maybe back in middle school or high school, or for some people, reviewing college? Well, yes, but there have been a lot of, how do I put it, unusual phenomenon happening with the moon, and these are phenomena that I've personally witnessed myself within the past maybe 6 to 8 months. It all truly started around the summer of 2017. That's specifically around June, July ish. But yeah, so the moon. When you look up at the moon, you go outside, you typically see it as, a full moon, nice and very bright, unless it's covered by clouds. Then it's kind of a sucky time. You can't even enjoy the view. Then you have the crescent waxing moon, the crescent waning, etc. Different phases in the new moon where there really is no moon out. Well, technically it is, but it's dark. And so those are your normal phases of the moon. And then you have your special events where the moon changes, where you get like the eclipse, the lunar eclipse, the solar eclipse. Sometimes you get a blood moon that's rust colored, reddish orange. Uh, then you get some weird moons, big moons, little moons. Whether it's closer to the Earth or farther away, farther, further, however you want. And for those picky people out there, I said both. But yes, we know of the basic, moon cycles, phases, and the special occasion ones. Now, here I'm gonna go and kind of give you a description of one that does not fit such categories or does not fit anything of what I said. And some of these stories, I will say, are gonna sound a little bit far fetched, but you know, honest, as honest as I can, say and be. It's the truth. It really is, and it kind of threw me for a loop when I experienced it, when I saw it happening. So the first thing that I'll kind of indulge you with is the color, a specific color of moon that I've seen. I mean, there's no one particular color of the moon. Typically, it's kind of a more whitish, or sometimes a little bit on the yellowish tint. That's kind of the normal. But there have been multiple times within the 6 to 8 month period, prior to today, where I've been outside, at night, very relaxing, and I look at the moon and I see that it's either like a rust colored, kind of like what the blood moon looks like, but on a day where there's not supposed to be a blood moon, but it's like a reddish orange tint. Then I've seen plain out orange. I've seen a reddish pink combination. Now that one was actually pretty cool, but kind of didn't make sense because I'd never seen the moon turn into so many colors. I've seen the moon, have a greenish yellow tint or hue to it. It's at least that's what I remember actually seeing, and what I can confirm 199.99% for sure that those are the colors or the hues or the combination of hues that I saw. Now, what makes me kind of question this is why so many colors? I get that the moon reflects the light off of the sun. That's why you depending on the position of the sun, you get the phases of the moon themselves, whether the moon has full light, half light, partial light, or no light whatsoever. But I mean, what the hell is the moon? What kind of light, or from what is the moon reflecting its light off of? Because last time I checked, the sun wasn't green. To my knowledge, the sun isn't really yellow. I'll give it credit for orange. Sun kind of looks orange if you ask me. Just saying. But red. Maybe. I want to say maybe in like a sunset, but not middle of the night. I don't think so. And so, it kind of leads you to a lot of questions as to, okay, why these colors? Why? Like, where do they come from? How did they come to be? Was there some astrological super phenomenon that, either we don't understand or somebody in the world or some group in the world understands and they just don't want to spill the secrets? Who knows? That's in time, we'll find out. It'll be revealed. So, another part, kind of going on with more moon abnormalities. Now, this one, I'll be quite honest. This one, if anything, is probably what I dubbed the most illogical and irrational thing I've seen from the moon. The most illogical and irrational. And you'll understand once I tell you why. So, here I am, kind of walking outside at my friend's house. And, outside his house and whatnot. And, we're talking, having a good conversation. And, we're kind of just relaxing, chilling, looking at the stars and just talking about life, kind of talking about the old days when we were younger and, hanging out and, being with friends and whatnot. And at one point, I'm usually the guy. You heard this here first, everyone. Uncle Louie is the guy who's gonna be looking at the moon almost immediately, or will definitely be that type. So I'm a natural romantic. I will always look at the moon. no particular, Sometimes for no particular reason. Sometimes to admire it. Sometimes to get a nostalgia from that moon. Again, I am the romantic. And so I looked at the moon while I was hanging out with my good friend, and I noticed it was kind of a little bit too early to be up. In a sense, like to be at the highest point, it was a bit early. I think I want to say it was maybe like 2 hours from from being at the high point, but at that point, it was already at the high point. And I thought, it's kind of weird, but it's nothing that unusual. You know, sometimes there's a quicker rotations of the moon through the orbits and the gravity and whatnot. So it's understandable. But it wasn't irrational or illogical until it started to set. Because you know how the sun rises and sets, the moon also rises and sets. And in this case, at least from if I remember correctly, and please don't give me a lot of hate if I get this completely wrong. I haven't studied the moon cycles in many years, but if I remember correctly, just like the sun rises in the west and sets in the east, I believe, and the moon does the same. rises from the west and sets in the east. Now, again, if I am wrong, I apologize. But, don't, like I said, I haven't studied this in a very long time, so kind of grit your teeth, hold it in, and just calm down. So, normally, like I said, if I am correct, rises on the west, sets in the east. Normal cycle. Well, the moon that particular night was rising from the east and setting on the west, as if the earth was going backwards, as if the earth stopped rotating, its normal route, and it just pulled a 180 on us and just started going reverse. Now that was truly odd for me. It wasn't anything to be extremely shocked about, but I thought it was definitely weird. It was extremely bizarre, because I'd never seen the moon contradict its, or at least to contradict what I was taught, that the moon, rises and sets just like the sun and in one direction. It never, deviates from that. And seeing this phenomenon, this anomaly, this lunar anomaly happen right in front of me, I just can't help but wonder what the hell is going on, What the hell is going on here? I have no idea what's going on. Is that even our real moon? I know this might sound a bit odd, to say it myself, but there are times when I believe that that moon isn't even real. Maybe it's a hologram, maybe it's a recreation, maybe it's a type of, Death Star little craft just smaller than the Death Star, and it's remote controlled, or maybe it has rockets on it where you can control the dang position of the rocket itself. I don't know, but a lot of weird stuff has been happening with that moon, and especially the whole, rising and setting in opposite directions is kind of very contradictory. It's a big contradiction for me, and it's kind of hard to take it in when, you're like me, Uncle Louie, who enjoys gazing at the moon and having a series of random thoughts, sometimes romantic, sometimes nostalgic, sometimes just happy, sometimes a little bit on the sad side, but nothing too bad. I'm like 99.999% always in typically a good mood. I'm not the type of, Uncle Louie's not the type of guy to be sad when he looks at the moon, just so you all know. And so, that's another story. Moon rising, setting, wrong sides, opposite sides, illogical, irrational to me. That's why I dubbed it that. And another thing that I've also noticed. Now, this one is more, I want to say, it's not necessarily that it's uncommon, because this is an actual anomaly that you could put a name to that's already out there, but the fact that it happens so many times consecutively almost, that's what's the anomaly in itself. And the anomaly itself was a series of consistent eclipses of the moon. Because I'd be out here at night with my buddy looking at the moon, because I'm a romantic, and whether the moon be a reddish orange, which it would typically be reddish orange when these eclipses would happen, or these lunar eclipses in quotes would happen, and then all of a sudden you just start seeing part of the moon get covered slowly by something. And I look around, I look at the sky and make sure to analyze it well, just to see what, if it's a cloud. Maybe, I think, to me, that's, that makes the most sense. It could be a cloud, and for all I know, that cloud could be spherical shaped or circular shaped. I don't know, but there's always a possibility. Nothing is necessarily impossible. And it starts covering the moon, and I'm there thinking, like, was there an eclipse that, was there a notification of, an eclipse happening today at the news or something, or online, that I didn't know about, or that I, neglected to check? Was I out of the loop? And, I go check my phone, check online, or check Weather Channel, check, the TV, the weather, the weather portion of the news, and nothing. There's no talk of any kind of lunar eclipse, nothing. And so going back to more anomalies, that's just strange. Like, why is all of this happening? I thought all of this was supposed to be every once in a while, not something that's typically, so consistent. Because at least growing up, I learned that a lot of these things, a lot of these occasions or these happenings, they're unique in the sense that some of them happen more frequently than others, but not in a sense, not so frequent that it's every day or every week. It's every maybe couple of months, or honestly, from what I remember from my early school years, it was every couple of years or every year or so, every couple of years more or less. And some of these phenomenons would happen, um, you know over a span of decades, and you wouldn't see it again. But yet, especially recently, now you're just starting to see all these eclipses, whether it be solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, more specifically lunar eclipses. But you know those two type of lunar anomalies, and they're just happening so frequently. Maybe not so much the solar eclipse itself, but the lunar eclipses. I can personally vouch for that one. I've seen it so many dang times, night after night after night. Or sometimes, the moon will go back to normal for, like, I want to say maybe a week, 2 weeks, sometimes even 3 weeks to a month. But then it'll go right back to that cycle. It'll repeat. It'll start going through the lunar eclipses again and again. It'll start changing color as if it was gonna be a type of, it's reflecting a weird orangish light, or orange reddish light, or reddish pinkish, or greenish yellow. It's an odd thing. I've even seen a moon have the similar color of blood, and I'm not talking about that movie blood that's super, rosy red, and all, like how actual blood looks like. You know, it's kind of a brownish red, a rusty color, more brownish than actual, with that red rust color. But you know what I mean. When you gotta get a cut or something, and it kind of bleeds and it kind of dries up a bit. Your blood dries up a bit and it kind of looks brownish. And I'm not talking about the scab. I'm talking about just the blood itself. When it dries up, it's a little bit brownish. Sometimes you get a rosy red depending on the cut, but I'm talking about that kind of rusty colored blood. And I've seen the moon look like that, and it just astounds me. Sometimes, and this is one color I just remembered that I neglected to put earlier on in my story. Brown, just plain, smoky brown. Honestly, when I saw that color, I wanted to eat some barbecue because it made me hungry. I just saw the brown. I'm like, oh, that looks like a good barbecue, day. It'd be a perfect. I don't know. It just looks like a piece of meat for me. It reminded me of barbecuing and grilling, and getting some meat on there, some corn, some chicken, all the good stuff, some sausage links or something. But I digress. But yeah, all these anomalies happening, and so frequently. Why does this happen? Why, or better yet, why is it happening so frequently, and why now? Why more recently? Why, kind of going to, 2017 to 2018? Why is it happening in particular in more recent years, when there were, since the beginning of time, this could have, all been happening consistently as it is now, and it would have been the normal. But for some reason, it was one way before, you know, maybe a couple of years ago, and then all of a sudden, and from the beginning of time to a couple of years ago, it was one way, and then now it's starting to change. And it's not like there's a huge explanation as to why, or if there is. I haven't come across such an explanation yet. If my listeners out there have maybe some explanations as to why there are so many lunar eclipses, kind of anomalies, so frequent and consistent back, from day to day to day to day, or why the color, sometimes turns into colors that don't necessarily match the colors that the sun gives off, or why, in particular, that the other questions are valid questions for me to ask, and I do ask them, but this one in particular is a challenge question that I challenge the listeners, you guys, you girls, you older gentlemen, older ladies, and younger gentlemen and younger ladies, and all types of of a variety of people. I challenge you to give me an answer, or to try to come up with the best answer you can to as to why the moon was rising and setting, but in the opposite ways, when it is irrational and illogical. I'll call that the irrational illogical challenge. I'm not too big on the challenges part, or at least saying that it's a challenge. Kind of seems cheesy with all the all of the trends that tend to happen. But that is me being sincere in the actual word. That's my challenge to you, to make you think, you know, come up with an answer. Whether you make up your own conclusions from listening to me and kind of doing a bit of research, or whether you're someone who is actually a professional in this field, and you can actually give me a very solid answer, or if you just want to take a crack at it, you know or you just want to try to put some type of thought out there, and maybe it might be correct, and you kind of help out the community of this question, the community of people whom I probably don't know, but I know are out there, that have seen the same anomalies and have wondered, why is the moon rising and setting in the opposite direction. So that's my challenge question. Get that in your mind right now. That's my challenge question. So, if you listen to this video when it comes out fresh and frequent within 2 days of it coming out, uh, try to answer it. Leave it as a comment on the video itself, on the comment section of the video, and I will try to answer. If you leave comments, I will answer. And if for some reason, either days, weeks, months, or years have passed since this episode first came out, and it's not exactly new, I still challenge you to write down, what you think, your thoughts on this, your thoughts on that moon question, that irrational, illogical moon question. That's my challenge. This will not be limited to just within a short period of time. No, this is like eternal, man. This is eternal. Like, this question will live on as long as this video's up. This question will live on, and as long as people watch it, I want to hear what each and every one of you think. Whether you think it's bullshit, call me out, but don't try to be excessively negative. Try to keep it friendly and playful. Don't ruin it for anyone else. But if you think that maybe I mistook it, or maybe I just didn't see it correctly, go ahead and let me know. If you think that you have a good theory as to why, and you believe me, and you think that actually happened, and you have a good explanation as to why, leave it in the comments, and I will try to answer as many as I can. So, with that being said, this is my challenge to you. That's that. And so now, it's that time. It is that time of the podcast where I am terribly, terribly sorry to say that we're coming close to the end. Yes, you heard right. Don't, please, don't cry, don't be sad. Don't be sad. Because there will be more content coming. I guarantee you that. That's a promise from me, and I am a man of my word. There is more content to come, and a lot of cool stuff on the way. Just to give you a little sneak peek preview, a lot of good stuff. Just to kind of put it out there. And so this is your host with the most, the wonderful, the kind, the wise, the musical, the philosophical, and the admirer of the moon, your host, again, Uncle Louie. And now, I am here to say, if you're watching this in the day, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, if one of those applies to you, which it should. I wish you all the best of that particular greeting, and I hope you have a great, great time with your life. Yeah, I said it. I know it might not make sense to some of you, but yes, have a great time with your life. Have fun. Keep your mind open. Try to learn more. Try to learn more. Get out of your box. Open your perspective. Don't be so close minded. Even if you don't agree with it, open up a little bit and just listen. And just enjoy it. Enjoy the content. Listen. And if you have any suggestions for future topics that you might want to, you're interested in hearing about, or if you're interested in maybe being a guest in my podcast, send me a message through YouTube, or if you're one of my Facebook people that, you have me on Facebook, then, send me a message and I will do the best I can to, get you on the show, on the podcast, or take your suggestion into consideration for a topic. And with that being said, this is the absolute final goodbye for this episode. Y'all have a good morning, good afternoon, and a good evening, and a good night, and sweet dreams. This is Uncle Louie saying, see you next time.